Oh, well, thank you. Wow. A round of applause and all. Thank you, Pat. I think we're going to dispatch with the evacuation policy. Oh. I didn't mean forever. I just meant for now. So if you are a new resident and you haven't heard what happens when the alarm goes off, ask your friend. All right, so we are going to let the department heads that are here go through if they have anything that they need to discuss, and you'll have a couple minutes to ask them questions. But then the bulk of the meeting today, I want to talk about what happens in the event that you get displaced from your home here at Woodland Pond. And I want to leave plenty of time for that because I think there's probably questions. So why don't we start with Jason? We'll go down the line. We'll try to get you guys in and out in 20-ish minutes. And then we'll go from there. Does that sound good? Okay. Please just make sure you introduce yourselves. Thank you.
I'm going to be quick. I am Jason Irish, Director of Concierge and Communication Services. Again, I only got a couple things. First thing, today we just got our stream back online, so I'm sure everyone's aware. The one thing is it may not be long-term. We're still working on getting, you can see these new mics in the ceiling that are red. We just got those installed to help with performances. They should be green, but when they're green, our stream doesn't work. So, so we're working on that. Right now they're turned off, obviously. So we'll see when the company can come back and figure it out. We've got an issue with like the heating ducts and the mics right there. But today we're back online temporarily. We'll see how long it lasts. One thing I wanted to talk about, this just happened today. Residents were trying to call the concierge desk and maybe other numbers. If you're a Spectrum user, which everyone here at Woodland Pond is, if you have a home phone, you have to dial the 10-digit number. If you don't dial 845, it's most likely not going to work. I can't say that's 100% with everyone, but I know we've been having issues today. And as soon as people started dialing the 845, it worked. Halima brought it up this morning. I see Halima right there. Also, another thing that just happened today, our digital signs, both here by the salon and over by the mailroom, were just upgraded. So there's a new view, there's all kinds of new options. There's issues with everything on it. So I'm working with them to figure those out. Again, it's just a couple bugs that they have to fix. I've already emailed them, so they're working through it. But check them out. You know, Dick Barry's picture is the first one you'll see as it goes to like the default. But they're nice. They're more user friendly. There's a lot more options. Check it out, and it should be hopefully fixed this week. We'll see. Another thing. This is the last thing I want to talk about, and then I'll give it over to Rob. We've had a position called Resident Technology Assistant. Cassidy was the last person in the role. She left about I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, maybe longer. She's still here, but she went to another position. In the meantime, it's been me and maybe a couple other people just going randomly to apartments and helping people when we can, when we have time. I just hired a new one. His name is Ryan. He starts at the end of this month. And I think he's going to be great. We're going to try to do like a BYOD, like a bring your own device event here in the PAC where residents can bring their cell phone, their laptop, their iPad, and we'll work through things. He'll come to your apartment and help. So it's something to look forward to. I'm excited. I hope everyone else is. Again, that's going to start in like the last week of June. And just a quick thing about him, just to give some credentials, he's currently working on his master's degree in cybersecurity. So he does have some background and he's very tech savvy. And again, I'm excited. So, yeah, so there's a fee. It's $25 for the hour, but it's prorated for 15 minutes. So if it's a quick fix, he's there for 15 minutes, you get charged, I think it's like $7.50. But it's quick. And again, if it's less than 15 minutes, he's there just to, you know, maybe change the TV input on the TV. We don't charge you. So if it's something longer, you can always ask me and, you know, I'll get Ryan in the mix and we'll figure it out. I've got nothing else really. Yes, Mr. Toole.
Does this upgrade apply to the connected living display on the computer, or is that something entirely separate? No,
that's separate. It will upgrade the way it looks on your TV when the dashboard's running on 1340, but not on the computer or the tablet or the app, if anyone uses the app. Yes, Mr. Brown. Hang on.
Great shave, Rob. When can we expect the newly improved audio system in the pack.
So that's what I was talking about. I'm hoping, I don't know. I don't want to say anything because the company who were supposed to be professionals installed it and it wasn't working. So they went back to the drawing board. They're talking to their provider that they use for the equipment and they got to figure it out. I don't know. Questions. Also, another thing I'll mention, I know tomorrow we've got a big event going to the Bruderhof. If you're going to cancel, let the concierge desk know. It's going to be a nice event. I hope, whoever signed up has a good time. Questions? Anyone else?
Thank you, Jason. I would just like to make a comment that we are going to be working on really trying to get all of our residents back onto 2 pieces of electronic communication that we really have moved away from since COVID. The first is the resident portal on the website, and the second is connected living, because both of those have a lot of functionality that we're not utilizing. So we're going to really make an effort now that we're all back in person. We're going to have the resident technology assistant here. What's his name? Ryan. And we're really going to try to get all of you through Ryan and through others really feeling comfortable with those applications, because there's ways you can communicate with each other. Like, I'm going to be away. Can somebody water my plants? Does anybody know what to do if you get displaced from your apartment? Those kinds of things. So we have that technology. I think we can improve on it, but we definitely need to educate on it. So that's a game plan, Jason. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Rob, do you want to go next?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Robert Dunn, Director of Environmental Services. The thing I wanted to touch on today, and I know Michelle put it out in the Chanticleer, was about the temperature in the apartments. If it's 79 degrees or warmer in there, the housekeeper will not do your appointment. So please make sure that your apartment is, I understand it's chilly, sit out on the porch or something, but it's tough to work in those conditions when it's above 80 degrees in an apartment. The staff are still wearing masks and all that, and they're working really hard. It just gets very hot in the apartment. So please try and accommodate, that situation. Any questions for me? I'll take a few. All right, I'll take none. All right, Tom Tango.
Hi, I'm Tom, Director of Plant Operations. I don't really have anything to start off with as far as general announcements. Any questions? Yes.
A year ago, I took a fall out front, and I repeated it again yesterday. I had so much fun the first time, I did it again. And it hasn't been fixed. And I'd like to find out why and when it will be. It's a matter of a piece of cement is sticking up from the cutout by the disabled parking, and my wheel from the walker hit it, and I went over, and the dog kept pulling me. So what's going on?
I can't, I don't want to answer back in time, but going forward, tomorrow, I'm going to be walking around and making sure not just that piece isn't fixed, but that everything we address those little things we can. And that, it's the best I can tell you right now. The other thing is that when things like that happen, what we do internally as part of our safety program is we meet, I think it's like every other month or so, and we go over all accidents, staff accidents and resident accidents. And the reason we do that is because we want to find out, like, if 3 people got hurt on a certain door, well, then maybe we need to look at that door. There might not be anything wrong with it, but maybe there's something we could do to stop that. So when it comes to accidents, it is something we take seriously, and we do use that information to try to solve it going forward. I can't speak specifically to that specific item right now, but again, the information we get from accidents, we do use that to try to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And as far as your particular thing, that's something that tomorrow I'm going to be taking a walk around with Mark, and we'll make sure we don't have any of those particular things. Also, like I always say, if anyone is aware of anything inside, outside, let us know. And daily, when Noel assigns work orders, anything that has to do with life safety or safety is prioritized above, somebody wanting a picture hung. So, so the most, any information we get from you, we use. So if anybody sees anything, and especially right now, the weather's getting warmer, more people are outside than they were 2 months ago. Same thing, my guys were outside more than they were 2 months ago. So if you see something, tell us. And, and that specific thing, definitely look at that tomorrow.
Going to Pat.
Having experienced an accident, I want to say, I think any accident should be acted on immediately, even if it's just a red cone on that
Right.
spot.
Mhm.
So it doesn't happen before you do
Right.
your
Yeah.
due diligence.
Al?
In line with what Rob was discussing before, the thermostat in my apartment is anywhere from 4 to 6 degrees off at various times.
Unless you have a good one.
And yeah, exactly. These are the good ones.
Right.
And I've spoken to other people also who have the same problem. Is this the best that we can do as far as thermostats are concerned?
Is it the best? No, I'm sure NASA has some better ones. But historically, thermostats, they're not scientific devices. And it also has to depend on where it's placed. So, I mean, the thermostat's going to read the temperature at the thermostat. It's not going to know what the temperature is in the other room. It's not going to know what it is by the front door. It's not going to know what it is by the back door. So it depends on furniture placement, depends on doors, so it's, it might be exact right at the thermostat, but not in the whole apartment. No.
But if I put 2 thermometers next to where that's located.
Right.
And that tells me that that is off.
That's assuming the thermometers are accurate.
Well, that's why I have 2.
Right. But I mean, we can easily look at it and adjust it. Right. But as far as what Rob's talking about, if the thermostats were set, to 74 and the room was really 70, 70, it's still fine. I mean, he just needs for his people to be in a room that's not real hot. But if your particular thermostat isn't reading right, put a work order in, we'll take a look at it. And if it's really out of whack, we'll change it. Yeah.
Going to Bob.
Yeah, I was wondering what the policy is about letting cats out at night. I've seen 2 of them on the north lawn. So I was wondering what the policy is on that. Is that permitted?
I don't think I have an answer right now. Yeah, it's per minute. Yeah, fine. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the answer to the question would be if it's an outdoor cat, it would be permitted outside.
Deborah.
I just wanted to point out that the life expectancy of thermostats is about 10 years. So if your thermostat is behaving badly, it might just be aging out.
Quite possible, right? Anything else? All right, thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bridget Blum, Director of Human Resources. I just want to announce that we are in the middle of Senior Living Week. So I know that Michelle did talk about this in her address yesterday. So if you had a chance to hear her address, I'm sorry that I'll be repeating some of what she said. But here at Woodland Pond, many years ago or several years ago, we decided that we wanted to expand what was traditionally in healthcare celebrated as Nursing Week or Nursing Home Week or, something of that variation. We have so many other disciplines of employees here at Woodland Pond, and we find that it's really important to celebrate everybody. So we actually came up with the name Senior Living Week. It's not an official week anywhere that we're aware of, or maybe it is by now, who knows? But it is our week at Woodland Pond where we celebrate our staff and we say thank you to them. You know, Tanya Reyes, who is the chairperson of the Employee Voice Committee, really spends a lot of time and energy and enthusiasm coming up with different ideas, games, things that we can do, you know, each of the days of the week, because we really want to keep it jam-packed so that there's something happening every day. We pick all different times of the day so that we capture all of the staff. And we also encourage the staff to come, even if it's their day off, or if it's, you know, their off shift, come and take part in the activity. So today was the barbecue, and that's really the biggest event of the week. And we usually do that on the Wednesday. We had a really nice gift for the staff. There were a good handful of people who did come in on their days off or on their shift off. A couple of staff members brought their children with them, which was really, really nice to see. So it's just a great day, and it always makes us all, as you know, directors and as the leadership team, to, you know, it gives us a chance to in person say thank you, and also makes us feel really great to watch the staff interact together. And, you know, they had lawn games set up. So I know a couple people peeked outside and waved and that kind of thing. So it was just a great day today. Tomorrow we'll have another event. And then on Friday, we close out with a ice cream social, make your own Sunday ice cream social. So it's just a fun week. And you know, there are signs around, and some people have stopped in and asked what exactly it is and that kind of thing. So that's what we're doing this week. So it's a good time. Okay. The gift that the staff, oh, thank you. The gift that the staff received today was a beautiful engraved Yeti mug. So that's a higher end thermal mug. It keeps items really cold or really hot. And, you know, staff were super appreciative, but the best part is that it's got the beautiful Woodland Pond logo. So yeah, which they also appreciated.
Hi. So last year at Christmas time, some residents got together and asked if they could assist in the serving of the meal for the staff. And so you had this nice event, and I'm wondering if in the future you and the other organizers could find a way for residents to help you recognize the staff.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure if that works or doesn't work. But,
no, I mean, absolutely. It's always a great, tremendous offer. It was so wonderful to have you folks help during the Christmas party. To be honest, I didn't think about it for this event today, but it's also nice for us to get to serve them as well. So not that I want to be selfish, but maybe we have to share a little bit. You can do Christmas, we'll do the senior living week, but you know, definitely an opportunity. And if there's a way to get involved, you know, we can certainly talk about it. Yeah, because the idea is not to make anyone feel excluded. Okay, anyone else? All right, well, thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to Michelle. This is going to tip, so.
I would just like to add, I just had an idea. So put this in your mental calendar. Every Christmas time or holiday time, we do a big buffet here in the PAC for the staff. We have a holiday party with raffles and so forth, but preceding that, we do a cookie party. And I just looked out and realized there's lots of bakers here. So when we do our cookie party this year, instead of just us baking, I mean, Tom's cookies are amazing, but we will maybe hit on some of you that like to bake, because we put out big trays and then we let the staff come and pick. But they'd always like new varieties and stuff. So that's one way that some of you can definitely help. Before I get into the displacement part of the presentation today, does anyone have any questions for me about any topic? Mr. Waltz? Or comments also.
I was just wondering what's happening with the new cottages, like when are they going to start bringing in fill and
Yeah, I'll let you know on that. So we are continuing through the approval process. We have been attending Village of New Paltz Planning Board meetings approximately once a month since February. Each time we go, a new issue arises and then we respond to it. So we were thinking that it was going to take 4 months. We're now in the fifth month. So we're hoping that maybe by the end of June, early July, we have the planning board approval. We currently have the New York State Department of Health approval, and we have the Department of Financial Services approval. All of those are entities that have to approve the project. So we're waiting on the planning board. We have a site contractor lined up. We had taken quotes from a couple of them, and we selected the firm that we believe that we are going to use based on their ability to meet the needs of the project and their availability and the cost. So we're working on that. The architectural plans are underway, well underway. We have the initial schematic design is done, and right now the actual construction documents, I believe, are in process, close to it. The financing is lined up, and the buyers or the future residents are lined up. So at this point, we're just waiting for the village planning board approval. It's not unexpected that they have concerns. Woodland Pond, many of you know this, many of you don't. I will share this with you. We have a rich ecological property. So for our region, just in the Hudson Valley, we have what a lot of people would consider a lot of riches because we have a lot of wetlands. We have diverse flora and fauna on campus, which is partially why when we were constructed, we agreed to put approximately 56 acres into a perpetual conservation easement. But even the properties that are close to us or adjoining us, we have a lot of wetlands. We have a lot of, again, ecological diversity. So there's just a lot of eyes on anything that we do. We want to be a good partner. We're all for that, and we're getting there. So we're working through it, but we're getting closer. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about displacement. This isn't something that we've talked about as a group really before, but a couple of times a year or once every 2 years or something happens where a resident or more than one resident is displaced from their Woodland Pond home. That can happen in independent living, or it can happen in the health center. In the health center, I'm going to start there because this is a little bit more of a straightforward process. In the health center, we generally always have available rooms and units, okay? We do that on purpose because we always want to be ready in the health center when you need care. So we generally don't fill to the brim in the health center on purpose. We could, because we are allowed to take admissions from the outside into the entire health center, but we don't want to fill to the brim because we have 260, 275 independent living contract holders that have a promise from us that when you need that level of care, you will have it. So generally in the health center, we're not typically full. So right now, for example, we are at 88 out of 100 units occupied, okay? So we currently have 12 vacant units in the health center. So in the health center, if a resident was to get displaced from their room for a particular reason, generally speaking, if it's a 1 or 2 or 3 unit issue, we can move you to another area in the health center. It might not be exactly the same unit, and it would probably be temporary, but we have the capacity to do that in the health center most of the time, or all of the times that we've needed to, we've been able to do that. If there was ever a wide scale event that took the entire health center offline for some reason, you've seen horror stories in the news. If any horror story ever happened, let's say that we had a massive flood of some sort, some crazy weather event came and we had to evacuate the health center. We are required by New York State Department of Health regulations to have in place what's called a transfer agreement. And what that means is that for all of our residents, we have to have sufficient capacity at other facilities that are like us, where you could go if you needed it. So for example, if all of skilled nursing got wiped out and we had 30 of 40 residents in skilled nursing, we are required to have transfer agreements in place to have other skilled nursing facilities to send you to if we ever had to evacuate it. Now, of course, we've never had to do that, knock on wood. But if you look at where you would see that this might be an applicable thing, We saw, I don't know, a couple of years ago when there was a massive power outage, I think in Florida, and there was a nursing home that they couldn't get the air conditioning going and multiple residents died. They didn't have transfer agreements, but in New York State is heavily regulated. So we're required to have those agreements. It doesn't mean all 30 would go to the same place, but we might have 5 beds guaranteed at this facility, 5 beds at that facility. So for the health center, you're pretty much covered. We have to handle all of that on your behalf. And you'll see that in a memo that I issued today, okay? In independent living, it's not the same thing. In independent living, we have to get your unit back online as quickly as we possibly can if for some reason you have to be displaced. But we don't have a requirement, nor do we have the ability to have some place for you all to go. Should something happen. So that's the whole crux of having this conversation today. It's to get all of you thinking about, if for any reason I could not reside in my home temporarily here at Woodland Pond, what would I do? And I don't share this to scare anyone, but I want you to be prepared. We prefer to communicate as much as we can so that you're prepared. In some cases, it's complicated, because some of you have pets, or some of you have other reasons. You might not have family locally. You might have, rely on oxygen. There's a number of reasons that this could become more complicated, but I always feel like our residents do better, especially in an emergency, if you've had time to think about it and are prepared for it a little bit, right? So in my memo today, I give some things that could happen. It's winter time, and we know that we have to replace your heating unit in your apartment or your cottage. We place the order. Tom just determines there's 30 of them on a shipping container, but the shipping container is stuck at port, and you are not going to be able to have heat in your apartment for 6 weeks because we've ordered the thing, but it's stuck on a ship. There's nothing we can do. That's one reason you could get displaced. A sprinkler pipe in the hallway could burst. It's happened here. Our building has settled over the last 13 years, and we have had sprinkler pipes burst. That usually when that happens, not to get into too many details, but you should all know that our sprinkler system is what's called a fully charged sprinkler system. So as soon as one head goes, in most cases, the entire thing has to discharge, and that's all of the pipes in all of the corridors that are fully charged with water. So even from the minute we shut the water off, it takes approximately 45 minutes at full bore for that system to discharge. That is a lot of water, okay? That happens, not frequently, thank God, and not in a while. We have situations where a neighbor turns the water on and forgets, and it floods out the apartments below. We've got situations where a mouse in a cottage or somewhere, makes a nest in an electrical box and chews through the electrical. There are a lot of reasons and a lot of causes as to why you could be displaced. So I don't want to focus on the causes, but I want you to be thinking about, gosh, Michelle told me I need to have an idea of what I would do if I couldn't be here. So the reason that this conversation is happening now is because we are full in independent living for all intents and purposes. I think we have 2 vacant apartments right now, and all of them will be occupied by the end of July. Our waiting lists continue to grow, thus the expansion effort. So whereas in the past, we were able to, because we had vacancies in independent living, if somebody got displaced, even a whole wing, we were able to move you temporarily in the building. We do not have that ability anymore because we are full. So this is where it's really important for you to really be thinking about this. Ideally, if we do this well, by the end of the summer, you will all have a form to have completed to give us a rough idea of what your plan is. And for those of you that don't have a plan, those are the people that I'm going to be working with, and my team is going to be working with to say, okay, we know that if this apartment goes, this person is definitely going to need hotel accommodations. And oh, by the way, they have a pet. So you need to find a pet-friendly hotel. So I would like to have handy at least a rough idea of what you think you would do. Some of the ideas that I suggested in the memo today would be to go stay with a family or a friend. Many of you have guest bedrooms and friends, so you might offer that to a neighbor that's displaced. You could stay with a neighbor here that has a guest accommodation, or to go to a hotel or rental property. Those are really kind of your 3 or 4 choices, right? Either go to live with temporarily with a friend or family, move in with somebody here, or go to a hotel. I mean, I guess you could get a tent somewhere, but I didn't include that on the list. Feel free to write that in if you'd like. So that's sort of where we're at. That's kind of what I just want everybody's mind to start thinking about, is where would I go? I think the longest term displacements that we had were related to a sprinkler pipe burst. And I think probably at least 2 months. 2 months. If we have to do a full gut, particularly now, that was before COVID. If we had to do a full gut right now, obtaining the workforce to fully renovate, obtaining the kitchen cabinets, the toilets, all of those things are delayed. So if it took us 2 months for a full gut renovation and full remediation of all of your belongings took us 2 months before COVID, you can anticipate longer now. We partner with a firm, a remediation firm, and the one that we've typically used is called ServPro. And so in the case that we have an incident, our incidents, knock on wood, have been water related. We haven't had smoke, we haven't had fire, we haven't had chemical, but we've had lots of water stuff. And we use ServPro every time, and they come in after our staff does the immediate response. They come in and they're the ones that are professional remediators. So they salvage everything of yours that they can. They take things off site to clean, mold remediate, those kinds of things. They do mold remediation here on site. So we don't do all of this on our own. We use professionals, but all of these things, I share this because all of these things are time consuming. All of these things add layers to how quickly you're going to get back and how quickly you're going to have your belongings back. So you need to just have it in your mind that this could happen. The next thing I want you to ask yourself is, how much stuff do I have on the floor? Because what we see, especially in the case of water emergencies, is it's the stuff that's on the floor, particularly paper in boxes, magazines, books, those kinds of things typically are the hardest to salvage. So if you have a lot of boxes on the floor, books, papers, like we've got residents that have just boxes of papers, that is going to be very, very hard to salvage. So it is very important for me to give this information to you now. So you can be thinking about, as you walk around your apartment or your cottage, like looking around down low and saying, oh my gosh, if I had a flood or was affected by a flood, how much down low would I potentially lose? There is remediation available, but they can't save everything all the time. So just looking around your physical space and trying to avoid losses if that was to happen in the future. The last question that's relevant to this conversation, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the process, is when was the last time you checked to make sure that your tenant's insurance is intact? Okay, you are required by your contract with us to carry tenant's insurance. It's not expensive, but it's required to be held under your residency care agreement, and it's there to protect your personal belongings in the event of some sort of a loss. So please check your policies, okay? It's a very good idea to make sure we have a copy of your policy on file. So if you've moved in anytime like outside of the last 3 or 4 years, you might want to check and make sure your policy is in force and that we have a copy of it. You can bring it to the business office, either to Melissa or Yolanda or to Christy. They can make a photocopy and put it in your file, okay? Because the biggest issue is, once we have an issue that you have to get displaced, and I'm not talking about a broken heel, I'm talking about like a flood or something like that. The first thing we do is we get you to safety. So we take you out of that dangerous situation and we get you to immediate safety, typically the conference room or someplace else where you can be safe here on campus. We then attend to the issue as quickly as we can. If first responders have to come in, they come in, ServPro comes in. But as that cleanup is happening, that is when we have to notify our insurance company if we have to do that, and when your insurance company has to be notified. They want those claims in ASAP. So having having your claim on file or your policy on file allows our staff to work with you to get those claims in as soon as possible. Because the longer you wait, the less likely it is that the insurance company is going to say all of this was impacted by whatever the situation is. So it's very important. Before I get into the financial responsibilities and how that all works, I'd like to stop there and take any questions or comments on this. We'll go to Ray and then Bill.
Once we figure out what we would do if we had to move out, to whom should we communicate our plans?
So this is what I was just saying that ideally, and I will make this happen. Sometime, let's say by mid-July, I'm going to get a form to all of you to complete. And on that form, I'm going to ask you to indicate if you know what your plan is. And then if you're willing to share it, share it. I prefer that you share it so that we know. But most importantly to me is if I don't have a plan and I need your help, Woodland Pond, I need you to circle that like in a red marker. So we'll get a form out on that, Ray. I think Bill had a question and then Dick.
You talked about boxes on the floor. All my boxes are down in the storage unit downstairs. What's your experience about how secure that is in terms of flooding?
Knock on wood. None of our storage areas have ever had a flood situation. Our floods in the basement, like the electrical room, which isn't better, but they really have been fine. And actually, if you were ever to go down in the basement in the storage areas, you'll look on the perimeter, there are significant sump pump systems in each of those areas. So if there was ever standing water down there or any water situation, those pumps will kick on. There's multiple of those in each one, but we have never in 13 years had a flooding incident in the storage cage areas. If you're concerned about it, we can always help you get a pallet. Pallets come in. And I would always recommend that if you have anything directly on the floor, that you at least get it up on at least one pallet. If you're interested in that, leave a note with Concierge or something. You can ask Concierge to put a work order in. You'll have to come down with us because we need your key and all that stuff. But we can coordinate a time that we can put a couple of pallets and then we can do that for you. Good question. Dick?
Michelle, you said that in your memo, Woodland Pond must be named as an also insured. I mean, that's very specific. That should be included in our home policy.
Yeah, so if you look at your residence and care agreement, and probably most of you don't know where it is, but if you wanted to look at a copy of your contract, they're actually in my office. And Crystal can help you coordinate that. The easiest thing to do would be to ask her for a copy and she can make you a copy of the pages. Actually, you know what? I'll just put a copy of the language in the Chanticleer tomorrow because it's the same in everyone's contract. And it just explains exactly what the insurance requirements are. And if you were to call your insurance company and say, I need to add Woodland Pond as an also insured, they know what to do. Okay, it's just an instruction you need to give them. So I'll put that actual language from the contract right into the Chanticleer this week. Thanks, Dick. Tom?
Yes, Michelle, one of the other features that the resident should look at in their policies, Schedule C, is loss of use. So if you lose the occupancy, your insurance will cover, at least mine does, for 24 months.
Okay, that's good to know. And a lot of these policies, so for example, and I'll get into the insurance pieces in a second because that's a lot of this, but that's a good point. The other thing I would mention to you, and maybe I'll put this in the Chanticleer as well, some of you have the ability to add coverage for your hearing aids and your dentures onto your tenant's insurance. It's not going to cover them entirely, and not every policy does it, but I recommend to all of you, if you use hearing aids or any types of dentures, because they're so pricey to cover, ask your tenant carrier or your insurance agent, can I get a rider on here for either my hearing aids or my dentures? It's always a good question to ask, okay? All right, so, Paul has a question and then I'll move on to the financial responsibilities and such.
Speaking of financial responsibilities, if we have to move out for a week or a month or so, what is our obligation to our monthly expenses, dining, the rent, et cetera?
You took the words right out of my mouth, sir.
Okay.
It's right in my memo, so I'm going to talk about it. That's right, financial responsibilities. So first and foremost, insurance in this scenario is a really good thing, right? So Woodland Pond carries substantial property insurance. You are all required to carry insurance for your personal belongings. And in this situation, it's extremely critical that as soon as we determine, is this a Woodland Pond issue or is this a resident issue, then whoever is submitting the claim needs to get the claim in as soon as possible. What has to happen, no matter what, if you are impacted, even if it is a Woodland Pond issue, like a sprinkler burst, or it's a resident issue because your upstairs neighbor flooded you out, you still have to submit the claim for your personal belongings on your policy, okay? So no matter what, if you are impacted and your personal belongings need to be replaced or repaired, you have to put a claim in. If you are not at fault and you experience a deductible, that will be covered by Woodland Pond if it's our fault, and it'll be covered by the other resident or their policy if it's their fault. So you should not be out of pocket anything, but you still have to submit that claim, okay? So even if you are the recipient of the flood, you will need to submit that claim. That's part of the contractual requirements. So we will work through that with you. So what's Woodland Pond's responsibility and what's a resident responsibility? Sprinkler pipe bursts in the ceiling, that's a Woodland Pond thing. Whatever the losses are related to that, that's going to get filed to Woodland Pond's insurance policy as long as it's over our deductible. If the damages are under our deductible, we're not going to submit it. We're going to pay it out of pocket, just like you would if you had a fender bender. If a resident leaves their burner or their faucet on in the bathroom and is rinsing out something in the sink, and the sink overflows and they go to sleep and it goes downstairs and downstairs and downstairs, it happens. That's a resident responsibility. That's not something that Woodland Pond could have prevented by, it's a resident action. Now, if a mouse that was coming for your bird feeder builds a nest outside your cottage and chews up your electrical wires, the question is, whose responsibility is it? Knock on wood, fortunately, we haven't had that situation happen. I would never want to blame it on a resident, but this is why sometimes the blame game doesn't matter. This is why we all just have to submit the claims to the insurance company and work through it. But yes, in all of the cases that we have had so far, it's either clearly been a Woodland Pond thing or it's clearly been a resident thing. If it's a resident thing and you're the person that left their sink on, if you do not have an intact tenants insurance policy, the losses that are experienced by you and all of your affected neighbors are going to be your cost out of pocket. Okay. It's not Woodland Pond's responsibility. It's not your neighbor's responsibility if you leave the faucet on. Okay. So that's why it's so important for you to have these tenants policies, which are really not that expensive. They will cover your losses and they will cover your neighbor's losses. Okay. It's very important to make sure those policies are in effect. So again, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, that wasn't my question. My question is.
No, I haven't gotten there yet. I know what your question is. I'm not there yet.
Promise?
Yes, I promise. It's right here on the paper. It's under some other things to consider. It's the first one under some other things to consider. So go ahead, Punima.
I spoke to my insurance company today and I raised the deductible to $300,000 for $12. But she told me that the wording you gave me made it sound as if they had to cover all of Woodland Ponds, So she is sending Christy language that limits it to, I guess, whatever
Your own
happens
losses.
with my insurance.
Okay, that's fine. That's the best thing to do because every carrier is a little bit different. So your policy has to cover your personal belongings and also whatever happens at your hands. Now, I'm not saying that at a resident's hands, it's never intentional, just to be clear. No one's ever doing it intentionally, but it's either a resident that does it or a staff member, which becomes our responsibility, or it's a Woodland Pond infrastructure issue. So this is how insurance works. Somebody has to put the claim in. It's got to be under their name, but your point, yes, your point is well taken. So your policy has to cover your own personal belongings and liability that happens at your hands. Yes. Yep. Ina?
Who determines who's at fault? Is it the insurance company or is it Woodland Pond?
So in all of the cases that we've had to date, it's been very clear, but it's always the insurance companies that bless it. Would you agree with that, Tom?
Or insurance companies. Like if something floods and it ruins your TV, you're going to file that claim with your insurance company. Your insurance company will then talk to the other residents' insurance company or our insurance company, but they will be on your side. So the best thing is if for you to have insurance, and then you have an advocate, your insurance company. They'll make sure that you're going to be made whole the best. They're going to be on your side to make sure that that TV gets valued properly. So they're going to be the ones who are going to be very aggressive on your side to whether it's against our insurance company or whether it's against another resident's insurance company.
Right. And what none of us want to get into the situation of is infighting amongst ourselves. We don't care if our insurance companies infight. That's fine. But we do not want infighting amongst ourselves. So it's very important that we all carry the policies that we're required to, so that when this happens, inevitably, we can escalate it to them quickly and they can handle it. Okay. Okay. So the monthly service fee, to Paul's question. If you are displaced from your residence, in some cases, your entire monthly service fee will be waived. We will submit that against our insurance because they have income disruption coverage and so forth. But in some cases, the entire thing will not be waived, and it depends on the circumstances. If we and the insurance adjuster agree that you can safely stay in your home, but you choose not to, that's one reason that we might say you still owe us the fee. The insurance adjuster, we've agreed it's safe. The building inspector might come in. They often come in whenever we have a big issue. Actually, I think they come in every time, or the fire chief. Someone that's a higher power than us says, yes, this building or this residence can be occupied. If you choose not to occupy it at that time, then most likely we're not going to waive your whole monthly service fee. Likewise, if you don't totally disconnect when you're displaced, we may not waive your whole monthly service fee. So for example, if you go to your child's house down the street in New Paltz and you sleep there, but you come back to the community for everything else during the day, for meals, for Jason to give you transportation, to come to the events, and you're still using everything else at the community, then we're going to say, okay, so we're going to waive a partial because you can't be in your apartment maybe for the room part, but you're here for the board or whatever they call it. So Paul, it's different in every case. We've had cases where there's been a partial waiver. We've had cases where it's been a full waiver. There's been some that there's been such significant disruption that even if you're here, we've waived the whole thing. So it's a case by case basis. Okay, but we try to be very fair. And I don't think that anyone that's been in that situation would tell you that they felt that it was unfair. Okay. The next thing is, I already mentioned this, but this is very important. We do see most times that your insurance carriers will not allow us to open a claim on your behalf. So you or your designee has to be prepared to open that claim. Okay, they oftentimes won't speak to me thinking I'm Lucy. Even if Lucy's with me, yes, maybe they'll let me talk with Lucy. And Christy Battistoni in our business office, or Crystal Spaeth, my executive assistant, she's helped with some of this in the past. We will sit there with you if you need us to, but we're going to be looking to you to make that claim right away, or your designee. If you're not up to it, you got to let us know right away, and you can come sit in one of our offices and you can be on the phone on speaker and we'll help you with it. But oftentimes they will not let us, and nor do we feel comfortable doing it on your behalf without you being present. We want you there. We need you involved. Okay, so that's on the actual claim piece of it. The last thing is, and this is just an asterisk or a note, some residents have asked, if I live in the health center, do I still have to maintain tenants insurance? So the answer is, if you are a resident that has a residence and care agreement, which is anyone that started in independent living and moved to the health center, you're under the same contract and you're still required to maintain tenants insurance. If you're a direct admit, you don't have to, but we recommend it. Go ahead.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about loss of use, because I think that would affect me directly.
Okay, so I would ask Tom to discuss that. Okay, Jason, can you bring Tom back the mic? No, not that Tom. Tom Gilder. Tom Gilder. All right, Tom, you're on.
Pranima, loss of use is in your, should be in your tenant's agreement under Schedule C. It grants you that your property that you're in, you're not able to use it. They will cover you for a certain amount for a certain period of time.
To reimburse for like room and board somewhere else?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, if you're displaced, that normally all of those expenses, if, you know, again, your policy, if not subrogated to Woodland Pond, which means it's not given to Woodland Pond as the primary, yours takes precedent, you get to file all those things. You go to a motel or a hotel, you can't go on a cruise, but you can put, which was a suggestion. What do you do if it's going to be 2 months?
You could go on a cruise.
Yeah, but you know, you do file for loss of use. Yes, it should,
Right.
it's 3 or 4 pages into the policy.
Okay.
Okay,
So
it
what
will
I would-
say Schedule C, Schedule A, which is liability, Schedule B is all other things, but Schedule C's, first thing it says loss of use.
Okay, so let's do this. Anyone that has insurance knowledge that I don't, if you want to send me some tips of things that I should be recommending to the residents to ask about for their tenants policy, I'm all ears because I'll put it in the Chanticleer when I put in about, you know, what to cover. So Tom, if you have just a couple of tips, that'd be great. Okay, Lucy, you have a question?
If I have to go to an inn, say, because a Woodland Pond makes me displaced, do I have to pay out of pocket to the innkeeper right up front? Or
So if you're displaced and you don't have a plan B, it depends. So we've had that situation happen only once. We paid because it was a sprinkler pipe burst. We put our credit card down because that's what the insurance company instructed us to do. Generally, what happens, Lucy, is as soon as something like this happens, we are all taking our direction from the insurance company. So the insurance company might say, Woodland Pond needs to pay the bill and then submit it back. The insurance company might say, we're going to open a claim. So it really depends on the circumstance. And I don't want to tell you ahead of time. But what I would tell you is that as long as you have your tenant's insurance and it's intact, at the end of the day, unless it's your fault, you shouldn't be out of pocket for anything. And if it is your fault, the only thing you should be out of pocket for is your deductible at the end of the day. Okay. How it all comes and washes through, it's different in every case. But as long as you have the policy, the most you should have to be responsible for would be your deductible. Okay. Larry? Oh, hold on. Jason will bring you a.
I assume there are limits as to what sort of facility you have to move to temporarily. You could move to a Holiday Inn and that would be paid for. You can't spend a month up at the Mohawk Mountain House and expect that to be paid for. So, and those are two extremes, but I assume there
Yes.
has to be some sort of
Yes.
reasonable accommodation.
Yes, Larry, that's correct. Now, fortunately, I will say that no one has tried that yet. But if they do, I'm telling them to send you the bill. Yeah, I mean, usually in these kinds of cases, you sort of look at, it needs to be an equivalent type of accommodation. So you wouldn't want to send somebody necessarily to the Fleabag Motel, but you also wouldn't say we're paying for Mohawk. So you'd find something that's essentially like on the same level, you know, maybe not quite middle, maybe a little higher than middle for Woodland Pond. And then if you choose to go elsewhere, like we'll reimburse you, let's say $200 a night. If you want to go for more than that, then that's on you. So we work through this. We've never had, knock on wood, we've never had any issues. We're really just having this conversation because I want you all to have thought about it and to be somewhat prepared should it happen. Jeffrey?
I don't remember whether the thing that we signed, the agreement between Woodland Pond and individual tenants, whether that specified the minimum coverage that you insist on.
The answer is yes. Yep, so it's got $100,000 per incident and $300,000 aggregate. And again, I will put that exact language, I'll copy and paste it right from the agreement and I'll put it in the Chanticleer this week. You're welcome. Tom Gilder has another question and then Ray Smith. Or comment.
Yes, the question is, when this all takes place, is there a letter issued by Woodland Pond to the, I want to say victims, to the people that are have the problem, describing what the decision is? In other words, it has been decided that Woodland Pond is responsible and you're going to be covered this way?
So we haven't done it in writing before, but that doesn't mean we can't. So what Tom is saying is that to date, any of that kind of discussion that has happened, those decisions have been made between either the insurance companies themselves or the insurance company and the remediator. But I'll talk to my team about it. I think once a decision is made, if it provides comfort to someone to say, we'd have to talk to the insurance company because I don't know if they use the word fault or what they use, but ultimately what we would describe, the best thing to do is say, this incident is being covered primarily under Woodland Pond's insurance, or it's being covered under your insurance, rather than and necessarily saying, and what it could say is, this is going to be primarily under your insurance. And based on the nature of the situation, we expect you to have $0 deductible or your standing deductible. We can come up with something, but if you've seen an example of that, I'd be happy to look at it.
No, I'm not. And I guess really my question was more into the areas of the participation of, it's fully our fault, you're fully covered, you're out, or it's partially this because you're using the thing. It's the degrees of how much responsibility you're leaving with the tenant.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
so
saying?
yeah, so we really take the lead from the insurance companies, and all of the discussions that we've had have been we've come to consensus. I'll talk to these guys and to legal counsel about what kind of piece of paper we would put behind that. I have no issue with it. We just haven't done it to date.
And by the way, in insurance jargon, it's not fault, it's covered peril.
Covered peril.
Yep.
Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Mary Alice, and I think Ray, did you have your hand up too?
Most of the people who have been asking questions know what they're talking about, and they're very knowledgeable. I sit here not really very fluent in the language you've just been using. In the event that somebody ignorant like me really needed help, might there be some staff member who would be a guidance counselor, one might say, through this very complex process? Because I know I would need it.
Yes, 100%. So what we have decided after the most recent incident is that it's going to be a 3 or 4 part team. So the director of resident services will handle supporting you from a psychosocial perspective through whatever's happening. Sarah Hall, but in her absence, whoever. Sarah Leonard. Sorry, old habits die hard. Tom and Rob will deal with the remediation company and very much with the insurance company. More Tom than Rob, but Rob will help. Yeah, Rob helps Tom out when he gets stuck. And then Christy Battistoni, or her designee from our finance office, will help and be there with you through all of the insurance stuff. So Mary Alice, no one in this process will be on their own. Up until this point, I'd say we've done a decent job with the latter two. So the Tom and Rob combo with the insurance company and the remediation, and Christy with the finances. In this last round, we really discovered there's a very important part on the psychosocial support piece of it. So we've engaged with Sarah to really be your point person to make sure that you're feeling like you know what's going on, you feel like you're calm, you're not happy, but you at least understand what's going on. And then all of us will work behind the scenes on the other stuff. So you are not going to be alone at all. Sarah Hall, now Sarah Leonard, the mommy that's on maternity leave right now. Okay, if we don't have any other questions, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So a point of information, because I just purchased the policy. My insurance company has what they call an umbrella policy. Not only covers your home, your residence, it also covers your car. In my case, it was up to $1 million in liability. So if you're chatting with your insurance agent, ask them about their umbrella policy.
That's very good. And what is your name?
John.
John. Oh, Mr.
Ortner.
Ortner. Hi, I'm Michelle Grimolia. I'm the CEO. It's very nice to meet you. Welcome.
And this is Jill.
You see me running
Ortner
around?
right behind.
Oh, hi, Jill. Everyone say hi to Mr. and Mrs. Ortner. Okay, so if we don't have any other questions at the moment, I think you all know how to get in touch with me. I'm glad we had this talk today because it's a new topic we haven't really talked about, and it's important to be prepared. So I will cover some of this in the Chanticleer in terms of the discussion that you want to have with your tenant carrier. But otherwise, you are free to enjoy the day. Thanks, everybody.